The Charleston Battery with their first game at Patriots Point. The 4-month hiatus is over for the USL, and they battled with Birmingham. Highlights coming up.
Fall football has been pushed back to the start of September 11th. We'll hear from some of the coaches about how this is going to give them some more time to be ready. Good evening, everyone. I'm John Barron.
And I'm Logan Reaver. You're watching News 2 Sports Overtime. For months, the calendar, well, it's been bare in terms of live sports events. John would know. He does the calendar. I just watch. But slowly but surely, we seem to get one sport back at a time. You can add soccer to that list now. It is our leadoff.
The leadoff is sponsored by Universal Marble.
The Charleston Battery not only got back to action after 4 months, but finally got to unveil their new home at Patriots Point. A new era for the club with new unis, new logo, and a new appreciation for Gatorade, because it's literally like playing on the sun right now in terms of this heat. Birmingham is the opponent. They already were 1-0 in their return as they beat Memphis 3-0 on Wednesday. And here's why. Brian Wright with a not a body in sight on the strike, and that is the first official goal in the Battery's home, but they would pull even thanks to the man who has done it plenty of times. Zico Lewis, the team's leading goal scorer from a season ago, hits home the lovely feed from Deshaun Nembhard. Worth another look. Take a look at it. And after can play Stairway to Heaven, you know, he can play it with the best of them. So we're tied at 1 going into the half. Second half here, only the 53rd minute. Birmingham off the strike. It's going to hit off of Logan Gadula. No! It's going to hit his own squad and into the goal. The Logan community is devastated. Maybe I'll send him a text later. We'll see how it goes. Rough way to lose the game, though. Into the return to number 1, 2-1, the final.
John Rahm completely dominated the Memorial Tournament this weekend with shots like this. At one point, holding a 7-stroke lead today, finishing 3 strokes ahead of the field as he takes home the win. The NASCAR Cup Series, Austin Dillon not only winning in Texas, but booking himself a spot in the playoffs. A crazy race filled with restarts and accidents, but the number 3 car holds on. A big decision coming down into the high school football. It may be pushed back, but that's good news because it's still on. Here's a look at what the South Carolina High School League came up with. A season that would start on September 11th with region play composed of a 7-game regular season and then a shortened playoffs concluding in late November. The first date of practice, of course, moved from July 31st to August 17th. Here's what some of the coaches thought of this decision.
It was tough not being able to go out with footballs, with just doing conditioning, knowing that we have a lot of new guys, guys with, little experience. So, of course, being able to go back out there and have regular practice is going to be huge.
Hopefully we can get back to workouts here soon in our district, and, we'll take advantage of every day they give us. Whether it's phase 1, phase 1.5, phase 20, it don't matter. Whatever phase we're in, we'll do the best we can with it and get our guys prepared for that first game.
As a coach, you want to have your players enough time to get acclimated to the heat and, to kind of the conditions to being outside. Because, during quarantine, a lot of them, might have gone outside, might have gone in the garage and done little things, but not as much as they normally would have been through like spring practice and summer workouts.
Stingrays officially announcing their 10th head coach in team history over Zoom on Friday. Ryan Blair taking over for Steve Bergen, who was there for just 1 season. It's another promotion from within the organization, the way that they like to do things there. But team president Rob Concannon says it wasn't just handed to him.
His work ethic, his attention to details, his passion, just watching him on a daily basis, arrive at the rink early and leave late at night.
A similar style of play to last year in terms of structure and overall philosophy. We like to play fast and play with a lot of pressure. We obviously want to possess the puck as much as possible, but I think it's going to be a really similar brand of hockey. Yeah, there's definitely unfinished business, and we've still got a lot of work to do to continue to build and grow and develop, and that's for the players and for myself.
The Atlanta Braves start their season this week when they head to New York on Friday to take on the Mets, their first real game in over 9 months. They hope to have 4-time All-Star Freddie Freeman in action as well. He just made his way back after his battle with COVID-19, a moment which he feared for his life.
That was the scariest night for me. I spiked to 104.5 fever. So thankfully George wasn't awake when I texted him because I probably would have gone to the hospital, but 2 minutes after that, I gunned my forehead again. I was 103.8. Then I was 103.2 and 103.6. So I was like, all right, if I go above 104 again, I'll probably just start ringing the phone, try to figure this out. But I said a little prayer that night because, I've never been that hot before. My body was really, really hot. So I said, please don't take me. I wasn't ready. It got a little worrisome that night for me.
Coming up, the full details from the groundbreaking Washington Post story on the Redskins and where we stand going forward.
And now the OT Spotlight, sponsored by Bohemian Bowl.
Brandon McIlwain is living his dream. The former Gamecock has found his way to the majors, and after you hear his story, you'll understand it wasn't an easy road.
A dream turned reality. Of course, every high school athlete has the same dream, to make it to a Division I college. And every college athlete
Swings and misses.
has a dream of making it to the pros. For Brandon McIlwain, he finds himself in the position to live his dream.
The experiences that I had, the workouts that I did, the grind that I went through, I just see it as something that prepared me for this moment. And now that the opportunity is there, I'm even better prepared than I could have been.
But his talent didn't just shine on the diamond. For his freshman year, Brandon found himself leading the Gamecocks on the gridiron as the starting quarterback. But when it came down to a decision, he just felt his love and passion was more in baseball.
Baseball became more of the lifestyle that I liked. The times that I had on the field with my teammates, and even the work and the mechanics work and the things that go into swinging a bat just became something that I really fell in love with.
But when it came time, he decided to take a new adventure out to California. A hard decision since his family has put roots down in Columbia.
That's where my dad went to school, and both my mom and dad grew up in South Carolina, and my grandma lives here as well. And so it's a place where I have a lot of family.
Whether it's at Cal or South Carolina, Brandon is looking to represent the state of South Carolina wherever he goes, which now will be in New York, as he gets the chance to live his dream and play in the MLB.
It was a dream come true. It was as exciting as it could be. It almost gives me the chills now thinking about it.
Showing that hard work and dedication will get you far in life.
It meant that all the work that I had put in through college, playing both sports, that it had paid off.
The story consuming the sports world on the national level is not a pretty one. It revolves around the Washington football team, but it's not the team name of the franchise. It's the acts that 15 former female employees and 2 female journalists are accusing them of behind closed doors. This was first reported by the Washington Post. There are accusations against positions of all sorts, from personnel to former play-by-play announcer. Some have been fired, retired, or simply left their positions this week. Team owner Dan Snyder was not directly implicated in the reports, but many have criticized him for fostering a team culture where abuse could take place. Allegations range from talking about attractiveness of a college intern while being recorded for a team video to text messages showing inappropriate sexual comments to a female employee. So those details from the story are clearly disgusting, but the story here is not Dan Snyder or these team employees. It's about the culture of sports, and more importantly, how women are treated in them. A culture that many fail to acknowledge can harness and encourage those vile acts time and time again while burying them under the rug. And not just when it goes national. I say this because I've now heard this. Just look at social media this week. Brave women in sports coming out with their experiences of sexual harassment in this industry, giving a glimpse into their world and how the hurdles seem to be never ending. The memory that sticks with me is that of Emily Applegate, the one woman who agreed to be named in the article. She started as the team's marketing coordinator in 2014, what she called a dream job, only for it to become, in her words, the most miserable experience of her life. That workplace shattered her. It ended what she worked her whole life for. There are multiple movements going on in our country right now. While they deal with different people and different issues, there's one common theme: accountability, so others don't have to live with fear. There's so much we love about sports, so much we gain through simply watching and playing, but there's a dark side too. And not realizing that is part of the problem. So while you may think it's tough to hear, imagine going through it. I know I can't. I've said this before and I'll continue to say this. Women are the strongest people in this industry, many of whom I look up to as role models in my own life. They endure more than anyone, but they shouldn't have to. And it's not their job to either. So while this may be news to you, it's not to them. And it's up to us, men, to make sure it comes to an end. We'll be right back after the break.
Now, Carolina Connection, sponsored by Preferred Home Services.
Every week in Coach's Corner, we get the chance to sit down with some of the Low Country's coaches and get a better look into their games and their seasons for this upcoming year, especially after the South Carolina High School League announced the new schedule after pushing it back all the way to September 11th as the start of the first week of the games. So this week, we get the chance to sit down with Kane Bay and talk a little bit more about the Cobras' upcoming season. So, Coach, just kind of tell us a little bit about you guys getting ready for this season.
You know, it's nice to have at least to have a timeline to work with. But I think we're still kind of handicapped with the rules that we have. Us not as much as other areas, but we still only work with 10 at a time, so we're still not able to do a whole lot of installation and stuff like that. So hopefully in the next week or two, we're going to move to 1.5 or phase 2, so we can do a little more with the kids as far as getting ready for the upcoming season. Coaches use spring practice to kind of fill in holes and kind of get a jump start on where kids need to be, and missing out on that. We got a lot of young kids coming up from JV and a few kids moving in and not really sure where to put them because we don't know what they can do. I think the next couple weeks will be important just to kind of get the kids motivated and get them used to the heat and get them ready to roll so that we can actually put on pads. We can do a whole lot of installing and not have to worry about getting them in shape.
Now, Coach, I've heard everybody really kind of talk about that heat as they get ready for it. Everybody's been kind of talking about getting their kids acclimated to just the low country heat that we're having. Just how important is that?
You ever been to opening Friday night in August? Yeah. I mean, the heat just sucks the life out of you. And if you're not well prepared, then that shows up in the fourth quarter. And, I grew up in the upstate. And coming down here, it didn't seem like that much difference, but it is. It's significant. So, the biggest thing is just getting them ready because nobody, not just high school kids, nobody practices as hard as they play on Friday nights. So, you can go through practice thinking you're at full speed, but Friday night comes, it just takes, whether it's adrenaline or emotion or what, it just takes a lot more out of them on Friday night. So, I think the hot weather and the condition, all that kind of stuff will be important. And I think the way they're doing it this year puts a little more pressure on us as well because we're starting off with region play. Normally you got 5 games to get ready for the region. Well, we're opening up with Wando. And the way they've got the playoff set up right now, only the top 2 teams go. So it's kind of like college. I mean, you lose one of your first couple games, you can be out. So that puts a little more pressure on us. And trying to get these kids ready and get them ready to go from the get-go.
Earlier, we talked about the fall sports season for high schools, which is still on. And with that, it begs the question, how does an athlete come back after a COVID-19 infection? Well, MUSC's Lanier Jackson recently helped put together recommendations for these athletes trying to return to the field after having the virus.
So we do have an algorithm that we put together that's available for all healthcare providers. It guides you through patients that are asymptomatic, that are COVID positive, and patients that have moderate symptoms and patients with severe symptoms. And it's a different algorithm or a different pathway for each of those patient populations. Asymptomatic patients are patients with mild symptoms, and that's a fever for only a couple of days. Then once you get out of a 2-week period of your COVID positive test, then you could return to sports. X group is patients with moderate symptoms as well, and that's where it gets broken down for less than 12 years of age and older. And it's kind of more lenient for those that are less than 12, because we know that when you're playing sports at that level, it's kind of similar to what you're doing with active play on the playgrounds. There's not much difference in playing sports at that age. And then patients that are older than 12 years of age, and an EKG ends up being an important part of that screening evaluation to see if you're okay to go back to sports. And then the last group is the patients with severe symptoms, and that includes the multi-system inflammatory process that we've been talking a lot about that you see in the news. You're going to be limited from sports for 3 to 6 months.
Do you think that there's any concern with once they get back, because usually you have such a revving up period that these athletes are ready when the game's happening, that could lead to something like maybe more injuries or just guys not being ready because the timetables are all screwed up?
Yes, 100%. I think that's why you see some of the professional level athletes that are saying they're going to take this season off because they're concerned they're not going to be able to train appropriately, that their body's not conditioned for it. I mean, obviously that's not the exact same as a high school athlete or a middle school athlete, but there is some similarities there.
It feels like the players want to play more than anybody else, and they're the ones putting themselves at risk the most, you know?
Yeah, I mean, that last sentence you said is a very important thing. It's the athlete that's going to be the highest risk in that situation. Yes, I think that is something that's driving this whole situation. But once again, and I can understand, I'm sure when I was 18 that I would say, let me play over all else. But that's what your parents are there for. That's what a healthcare provider is there for, to help provide guardrails as well. But I think an important thing to also say is that an asymptomatic person that is COVID negative is different than somebody with symptoms and a COVID positive test.
South Carolina State will not have football this fall after their announcement that all fall sports in the MEAC will be on suspension. They have not ruled out playing football in the spring and will continue to discuss the option, but here's the team's reaction.
You know, they were all disappointed. Of course, anytime you bring some news of that kind, there's going to be all kinds of reactions and what have you. At this point, though, I think they, had an idea of something of this kind could possibly happen. It has been a rough and tumble kind of existence. And no, I have never gone through anything in my lifetime of this sort. And I can tell you that I don't think any of the rest of us have either.
After the break, the greatest knee a quarterback can take. And this dude has won a title, so that's saying something. It's coming up.
Gem of the Week, sponsored by Ashley Home Store.
Now, we used to have a diamond sponsor for this segment, which would have been very fitting, but nonetheless, congrats to Trevor Lawrence giving the gem here, proposing to his girlfriend in Memorial Stadium on Friday night. As I like to say, till Death Valley do us part. The good news, she said yes, because I think we all would to a future #1 overall pick. But still, congratulations to them.
And now, OT's The Talker, sponsored by Bojangles.
Going along with that, every once in a while you see the proposal videos that just did not go well where they say no. Like, imagine if she said no while their photographer was right there to Trevor Lawrence. You know what I mean? To Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah.
I won't say imagine because you're not
I would
hope
it would be because it would be like, oh no, I feel like we're not a good match. But you're like, you're like seeing dollar signs. Like,
I'm gonna text Trevor after the show. I'll let him know. No, nonetheless, going along, another talker this week. Baseball is back. MLB, the Braves. Last time they were on the field, they gave up a 10-run first inning in a winner-take-all game, but you might have forgot that because there's been a pandemic and all these different things.
I didn't forget.
One man remembers. Really quick, what do you think is the expectations ceiling for this team?
I mean, you look at the way that their offense is starting to come around. You've got Ozzie, you've got Acuna, you've got Freddie Freeman hopefully going to come back, and now you're adding on yet another power hitter. We're talking about somebody who's coming in with a possibility signing for only the 60-game season. Yeah. But, I mean, still, you've got all that offense coming in. You've got a little bit of defense. But, I think they're just going to do really well if they could just hold it together, and our pitching staff can do well on the mound.
That's the key
point.
It's been
years.
We were yelling at the bullpen for a lot of last season, so we hope that in 60 games those yells will be a little bit less. But nonetheless, we will see how it goes on Friday night. They are in New York for that one. That is all the time we have for News 2 Sports Overtime. Check us out all this week, and we'll be right back here on Sunday night.